Waddles family tree, another movement decoded session. We're going to explore our QDRs from a new perspective. So this is level 2. If you've found yourself on this video, probably because you just clicked on it and you want to watch it, or maybe you've seen the level 1 video where we've sort of comprehensively explored around just the foundations and fundamentals of the elbow lever, this position here, and being comfortable transitioning from that pivot point and just having that as a realm of movement. Bit more forgiving shape, less intense on their shoulders and the external rotation of the shoulders. So for something that a lot of people want to explore is the like QDR rotation and just finding kind of the chest up to chest down. So this session is going to focus on taking our QDRs to the next level where we're just now getting comfortable in a territory that usually scares people with kind of their wrist being in an awkward position, like falling out and kind of getting caught under your own body. We're going to see where we can find efficiency and technicality around that as well. So today's going to be exploring the chest up transitions in our QDRs. First of all, we're going to do some preparatory drills, some just activating in the right part of the body. And this I just want to say, don't get too hung up on drills and drilling yourself to death and feeling like you're not in the right range or flexibility to do a movement. Sometimes what's happening in kind of the new age movement world now, as I'm recording this video in 2023, we can be a little bit, and like this online world of fitness, we can be a little bit over prescriptive and overly technical when it comes to exploring around the body. And movement is there to be natural as well. And just by virtue of doing some movements, especially the QDR, we're working on flexibility, we're working on mobility, we're working on intelligence and dexterity and sensitivity of the muscles and joints of the shoulders. So don't get too hung up on what I'm about to show here, but they do serve as nice, with all of that being said, they serve as nice prep drills, rehab drills, or even prehab, prevention of rehabilitation. So here I've just got, you can use a mop stick, anything that has a little bit of length, maybe about this long. Here you're just going to hold it upright, draw it down, open palm, make sure you're still holding on so the stick can come towards just above the elbow on the upper arm. And here, going to take hold of the bottom bit and just floss. And this is just about listening to the sensations here. And what's really nice about this one is you can take the body in different ranges. You can just explore around the movement of the upper arm and the shoulder. A few little techniques when exploring into this. It's just kind of like flossing into that external rotation of the shoulder here. What you can also do if you find a sweet spot is you get into the stretch, you add a little bit of resistance. So this top hand is trying to do this with the stick. So as I do that, the bottom hand is anchoring it in place. So I'm engaging through the internal rotator there, taking a breath in, and then stretching it again. And all we're doing is kind of just, you can just do that at different ranges. I meet a stretch, I press into it, resist against, take a breath in, and then release and relax. You can do that, and this here is very reflective of like the QDR position that we're coming into as well. So it's nice to build a bit of just an opening and a warm up in that, and I'm gonna just do it on both sides. My left side, what I'm doing now is a lot less dominant, a lot weaker. I tend to, in my own movement practice, I do shy away from doing the intense QDRs on this shoulder, not because it's injured, just because it's my non-dominant side, and that's just something that I should iron out and something I should work on. It's much more of like a comfort, success rate, ego thing that I'm tapping into as well. So I'm going to do maybe a few demos today on my weaker side and just kind of show the differences, the asymmetry in that. Next thing we're going to do, what do we need? We need like a towel or something. You can get a t-shirt, you can roll something up. I'm just going to use my hat. Just something that you can press your elbow into and squeeze into. The reason why we want something here is it helps isolate a lot more the compression into the external rotation. rather than it just being in the side. So yeah, we squeeze something. It can be a tennis ball, a softball, like, and yeah, just be creative with it. Don't need that. Don't really need the stick either. I like to use it just for being able to be quite integral with where my arm is completely neutral this way, parallel and vertical. So here I'm just crunch and squeeze. So now I'm not stretching here. Necessarily I am, but I'm just compressing into the back of the shoulder there. And then release. You can do like a 3-second squeeze. So it's 3, 2, 1, release. 3, 2, 1, release. You can also play with the rotation of the elbow here and doing the same thing. 3, 2, 1, release. And nice easy one to compress into the territory that we're building into. So squeeze, 3, 2, 1, release. 3, 2, 1, release. 3, 2, 1, release. And just do that. I can probably do like 8 to 10 on each side. You can move on if you're wanting to do these drills. Last thing we'll do, we need, if you don't have this, it really doesn't matter. Resistance band, you can just skip this exercise, but it's also a handy drill that we can play with. We've just squeezed into the compression. We've also kind of loosened up into that internal rotation muscle by stretching into external rotation here. Now we can do a little bit of strength and flexibility at the same time, a bit of a contract relax. So what I'm doing here is making sure there's a bit of tension on the band, and then I'm opening up into this range here, feeling the resistance, and I'm not trying to like get a massive stretch where the band is doing those work and I'm having a tug of war match with the stretch, but I can just feel that, a little bit of that sustained squeeze, and then I'm going to resist into it, just a little bit, just a tiny bit there, for 3, 2, and then maybe you can increase the stretch a tiny bit. And again, 3, 2, 1. And you can just increase into that range. And we're building strength now into that. And this is a muscle that really helps bring us out of the QDR as well. By just adding a little bit of stability there and just waking up into it and activating it. It lends itself nicely to when we do a bit of the meat and bones of the drill, of the QDR. So that's that. Okay, and I'm not demonstrating the right side, not purely because of time, you don't need to watch me stretch, but because when I first learned the QDR from the breaking days on my right side, didn't do any drills, didn't do nothing. Now this shoulder is solid in terms of how strong it is, what I can do with it, how I can negotiate around this shoulder. It's just because I explored when I was younger by doing, not by me, but here actually doing it all. Now that I'm a bit older and still trying to develop, I'm just being a little bit more considered. And as a kid, you bounce back, but maybe if we're watching this a bit older, it's good to do some of these as well, just to be on the safe side. So now that we feel a little bit more prepped into the shoulders, if you did that, next thing, we're going to find the specific placement that we would do on the floor, just on the wall, a little bit more forgiving in the weight that we're bearing through. So I'm just having my elbow slotted in, just like we did in some of those exercises, extend into the wrist, and then rotate down just a little bit, about 45-degree rotation. And that's going to be somewhat of a sweet spot you place into the wall. Forearm relatively parallel towards the ground. Notice here, elbows kind of flush into the fleshy part. And I'm just feeling the weight of my body. Can you bring your head onto the ground? Let the head boogie woogie a little bit. But also what we want to play with here, specific to today's session, is a little bit more of that opening. So maybe even finding the actual elbow in the pocket of the kidney area. This is incidentally why it's called QDR. Backstory, Kedajiheens is where I come from, capoeira. I think that's like the etymology of it. And elbow into the kidneys. And that's kind of the pocket that we're playing into here and trying to rest through that lever. And then for the rest, just explore. Boom. Oh, wow, got a little twinge there. Boom, hitting sweet spots. Good. And then you can do it on the other side. So remember, in, open, extend the wrist, turn the hand down slightly, And that's the sweet spot that we're exploring around. Especially QDR, into the kidneys there. Can you have the head on the ground? Let yourself just meet really weird and abstract positions, but making sure that the wall is a huge source of support, not just the floor. So you don't just have the arm on willy-nilly and just be like, here. Make sure you actually, if the wall wasn't here, I would just fall straight down right now. So you want to have a lot of your trust here rather than here. And then it's a sincere exploration around the shoulder. To see just how acutely we can get into that position and efficiently, we're going to play with drawing a circle and landing into that shape. Essentially, elbow in, hand on the wall, and straight away like, yep, that's the sweet spot. The way we're going to test this is one hand. I'll demonstrate this so you can see it's going to come up, fingers pointing down. So I'm about a foot away from the wall, hand up, fingers pointing down. And then you're keeping your fingers off the wall and just spinning on the corner pocket of your hand. So boom, trace, 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 trace. Look. Wow, because it's going to kind of force us into that kind of awkward position that we've got to find when doing the QDR from different positions. So hand up, I trace, 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 and look for that connection into that, because then it takes us into different variations. Up, I'll demonstrate two more. Trace, 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 trace. You're going to feel a bit sticky here maybe, which is good. Elbow in, then how can you maneuver to get into the pocket? Notice my head's on the wall as well. Nothing wrong with that at all. Up. Boom. And we're in straight away. I can feel it. So I don't want to do it and have like a lot of faffing around. So before, when we did the wall waddles, same thing, the floor waddles. In the previous video, level 1, we explored a lot kind of around this territory and getting comfortable. Now we want to get comfortable a little bit more into the open. So we want to be somewhat on the side and kind of just explore around there. Ideally, this free leg from the planted side wants to rotate behind. And then we just find now exploration around here. So we sit in the pocket, little boogie woogie. You don't have to go this fast. Be as sensitive as you need to be. Different placements. Hit. And just getting strong. And then all of a sudden we're compounding all of those drills that I mentioned before. We're compounding it a little bit here. We're doing the strength. We're doing the stabilizing. We're doing the stretching. It's all happening in a one here. So instead of just like picking it apart, here, just by virtue of this, we're kind of getting that stretch a little bit. And the strengthening. And the balance. There's so much happening there just by wobbling around and exploring around that shoulder. What's next? Okay, some main positions that you should probably get comfortable in before we go into the full transition is shape 1, the chair freeze. Having the elbow a little bit more wrapped behind, more towards the kidney. This position, we want to be comfortable here, chair freeze. In that back body. We also want to be a bit more comfortable in this side shape. So it doesn't have to be so open into the shoulder. It's a bit sneaky, this one. The elbow can be quite close to the normal lever, but we're still a bit more, we're still opening into the shoulder here by being on the side. So I'm quite close into the elbow lever shape, but one knee tucks in, right in, juelo, here, in, tuck. So then I have this anchor being on the side. And it's okay if the elbow is a bit closer to the belly button, because this allows for a nice rotation onto kind of the open chest. And then it creates also a lovely transition from the knee tuck to switch. So we're here and we switch the leg to come behind. So we have a new anchor of this back leg. Here, switch, switch, switch. I think those are quite important to have. Again, from knee tuck to switch to this back leg being the anchor here. Switch, back leg anchor to open. Boom. Those are 3 quite important positions that I want you to familiarize. And then we can get into some fun stuff now. So now we're going to find our supine position to the lever itself. So everything we've been doing to try and find the sweet spot, now we're going to basically lift ourselves into it. And the way we can do this is coming up and lifting into the sweet spot of the elbow, and then rewinding it back down. Lift and up and back down. Lift, up and back down. What I'm essentially doing here is trying to get my belly button pointing up towards one of the walls, left or right. And the key factor here is hips, 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 hips. High as we can. The higher we have our hips, the more space you create to try and lift into that sweet spot of the elbow. So I'm lifting, and the arms are kind of coming a little bit in opposite directions. The base arm, the anchor arm, comes down a little bit lower to plant the hand. This arm can come up to prep. So I lift into that position, hips high, and resting in. And back down. Opposite directions to help leverage through the hands to lift. Notice my head is doing so much work here as well. I'm going from the back of the head, almost like trying to roll towards the top of it. To the top of the head. That was just an exaggeration of the movement. You see where it's going. Another way to find the sweet spot as well, really, is we've already kind of sneakily explored it by doing that precision landing, the wall rotation, elbow in. This only works for those that have the low bridge rotation. I've got a video on that as well. Head over to that. If you've got it in your locker, it might actually make the QDR a lot easier because you're giving yourself even more space. So instead of having to lift up into the lever, you actually get to crane, lower yourself down into it instead. So one to try. We all know where the sweet spot is now. So now we can come from high down into it. Essentially round, in, and catch. And then we're there to play. So you've got all that height and space to basically find the spot. Again, you can still use your head if you want to, but if you've got the low bridge rotation, you can use the head, and it might be a bit easier to catch the sweet spot. One to try. I kind of just added that as a bit of a side note. It's not going to be the main focus of today, but some people might find it easier. But we're going to stay somewhat in that back body position. So once we're comfortable with finding the sweet spot, how do we exit? I'm going to go through 2 main variations here of how to exit. First one, the slide down. So once we're comfortable, lifting up and facing down, the anchor knee comes down for another point of contact, and then we should be in a really comfortable spot of the elbow to just slide onto the belly. So again, we prep, lift, place, knee down, and that trailing leg can come around and we can slide onto the belly. A lot of many options from playing with that. Little time, knee down, slide, and we've got some lovely territory of movement from there. It's nice, beautiful junction on the belly. One more. Prep, lift, place, knee down, and slide. To sprawl. Feels really nice to do as well. I'm gonna do one more because I like it. Lift. So slide out. Variation 2, we can stand up from it as well. So instead of placing the knee down onto the ground, we can shout out to Vincent Viz for that one. Great movement coach as well. Kind of suggested that extra point of contact, which makes it a little bit less weight through the shoulder. And then you can tease into how much strength we're building. This one now, we place our feet on the floor to see where we can come out of the ground and come up through standing. So the same entry, open position to the closed. Prep, place, foot comes down this time, and then I can use all of that push strength, the support from the feet to come up through standing. So again, foot, step, and anyway, I like to place the foot down and then use that as a base, so then the free leg, the last leg standing up, has all of like this choice for placement then. So I'll demonstrate on the same side one more time. So you watch how the feet land sequentially. I rotate, don't place the knee down but the foot down. So now that's my base leg. As I push up, I can go wherever I want to with that leg. Mais uma vez. Like so. Two lovely ways to get in and out of the QDR. What else do we have? Up. Yeah. Some extra details that we can play with is, so that variation is stepping round and over. One that's very common in the QDR game, in the QDR cult, is this little curtsy squat behind the leg. Some people find it a bit more difficult to kind of get the foot behind in such a weird position. So one way we can tease into that, essentially what I'm describing is still finding the base no matter how you get there, but then the back leg kicks behind to let now the bottom leg be that winding support out of the shape. We can prep into it a little, we can isolate that movement by playing with coming into a baby bridge, hands down, just a little bit of a lift, maybe even the head on the floor. Doesn't have to be so massive, but here, just getting comfortable with looking and stepping and back. Look, step behind, back. So here, I look, step behind and back. And notice I'm letting the head slide. So I have space for my foot to come behind. So little curtsy squats behind. So when we start to find the QDR rotation, instead of the back leg stepping over, we can have the back leg stepping behind to kick out. So here, lift, step behind, and I can base out in many variations as well. Depending on how comfortable your QDR lever is, it might be lift, step behind, little step. That was demoed on my weaker side, so that's kind of what I tend to do it like. On my more dominant side, I've got a lot more options, a lot more spectrum of choice. So curtsy squat, stepping out. What else have we got? One more thing that we can play with is the hole, the concept of the hole, which is like so. Hole, a nice grounded cartwheel. We can do the same, kind of with the QDR as well, which can be quite fun. Some variations to try. Demonstrate it this way. We lift up. We keep the whole leg shape so both hands come into the lever. And then we come into the other side. So I can just transition down to the ground. Lift. Step. Hold on, that was a bit raggo, that one. But you get the idea. So a lovely little sequence side to side can be, I will roll down to figure 4, trace, lift, elbow to elbow, and back out. So then you have warm, we come up, lift, elbow to elbow, and switch. We can also play with that same transition, the hole. So you're trying to get essentially into your elbow lever position and switch like this, basically. And switch, and it's really forgiving. You have your knees, feet on the ground, however, whatever aesthetic or intensity you want. We can do it from our bridge rotation as well. So I come around, step, and through. Same thing, round. I can use my head a lot for that transition too. I'm really actually putting so much weight on the head through that. Head, head, head. Oh. A lovely sequence of movements. I think we'll leave it there for a bit. There's a lot to chew on. Just keeping in the theme of coming away from the closed elbow lever, but transitioning from chest facing up position, low bridge rotation, back body, into finding the closed shape as well. So many variations to play with into those QDRs, but we'll just stick to that. Don't know if I went off screen, but yeah, small flex there. Just a repertoire of different movement, all stemming around this. It's lovely. Hope you enjoyed that. Love, 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 gang. If you enjoyed the thing, give a little like. If there's any things that you found useful, if there's things that I haven't mentioned that other movement nerds are like, yeah, I've tried this one before, or I suggest you place the hand there, shove it in the comments and let's keep this community up. And if you're enjoying all of this free content that's being pushed out, feel free to buy your boy a coffee. You can get your boy some unicorn blood if you want to. The link will be down there and the thing there, and you can just, yeah. It helps with the late night editing and the regular uploads. So other than that, give a little subscribe if you're enjoying. We'll keep this reciprocated energy growing and flowing, and I'll see you next time, guys. Peace, love, 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 gang, gang. Hey.